Hi guys, welcome back to an art video. It's been ages, really ages since I did one of these, but my problem has been that I need to have a nice bright day, and every time it's been bright and sunny to do a video like this, I've been really busy, and then every time I haven't been too busy, it's been grey and miserable. Well, today's nice and I haven't got too much to do today, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the opportunity. So I hope the lighting is good enough. I've completely forgotten how I used to set this up, so if everything falls down, sorry, I'm doing the best I can. So if you've missed any of my previous ones of this drawing, or you're new and you don't know what I'm doing here, this is another of my hobbies, drawing. Not been doing it too long, but I'm really enjoying it, and I was asked to share some of my tips and techniques, so I've been doing that. And there's a playlist of mine. If you go and check out the playlist, you will see the art videos there, the ones I've done before. And yeah, I'm just doing a few tips. As I've said before, I'm not a professional artist, far from it. These are basically my learning experiences as I'm going along in this new hobby. And yeah, if you want a perspective from an amateur, that's what we're doing here. So I've talked previously about rendering the drawing, and that's pretty much where you start off, just doing an outline, getting the basics down. And I've talked then about putting details in, again, playlist if you want to see those. And this one is about shading. So this drawing here was a suggestion, actually. Somebody suggested I did a drawing of one of my doll's feet and baby feet, because as most of you will know, I collect reborn baby dolls, art dolls, and I'm obsessed with baby feet. But I decided in the end I would just take a photograph of baby's feet and draw from there. So this is the result. I think it came out really well. I have been working on, since I did this drawing, because this was back in, I don't know, it's upside down to me and I can't read upside down. It was a few months ago. Since doing this drawing, I've done a couple more, and I've been working on darkening my shading, because I think lacking in confidence made me keep it very light on the paper. So since then, any I show you from now on, hopefully you'll be able to see a bit better, because they won't be as soft as this one. That said, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. When you look at it with the naked eye, certainly anyway, it looks really 3D on the paper. The rolls on the skin look really good, and I'm really happy with that. And that comes down to a lot shading. It's a lot to do with the shading, is getting the 3D look, getting the image to really come out of the paper, is about the shading. And the shading is absolutely my favourite part of drawing. I love it because it's what really brings the image to life. And I've said in the previous video that if rendering is the skeleton, getting the bones of the image down, and then the details of putting the flesh onto it, the shading is the breath. It just brings it all to life. So after you've got the details in, then you're going to start shading around the details, and that really puts in the skin look to it. And what I use are these little things here, these stumps. They're basically paper rolled into tubes. There's one size and there's the teeny tiny one, but you don't need to use these. You can use all sorts of things. You can use cotton buds or Q-tips. You can use paper, tissue paper, like if you're doing a big area. I wouldn't recommend that for tiny areas of shading. What I wouldn't recommend doing is using your fingers. I know some people do, but you have oil in your skin, so if you start rubbing the shading with your fingers, you're going to put oil into the paper, and that can really mess it up quite a bit. Basically what I mean by blending the shading is doing what you were told not to do at school, which is smudging it. But it's smudging it with a purpose, with an order. It's not just messing your paper up by smudging it all over the place. You can see here, this is what I've done here. So I would have put a little bit of darker shading in and then moved it across to the lighter parts using my stub that I just showed you there. And what you need to do is where there's darker shading, like up here on the toes, Don't just darken it in heavy with your pencil. What you need to do is layer it on, because if you're going too thick with the pencil, it's going to be really, really difficult if you make a mistake or put shading where there's not meant to be a mistake, or, you know, come over the edge of the rendering lines. It's going to be hard to lift it off with an eraser, with your erasing putty or your whatever you use to remove any mistakes. It's going to be really hard to take it off if you've gone in really dark with your pencil. So what you want to do is gradually layer it up. So start with a fine layer and then just keep darkening it as you go along. What other things did I write down here? Yeah, shading's really good for filling in blank areas. So if you're drawing an animal, for example, and you're not going to be wanting to draw in every single hair on an animal. You definitely want to draw in some hair to give the impression that the hair's there, but drawing in every single hair is going to be ridiculous. I mean, I've drawn my cat and I've drawn my dog, and you need to put hairs in there, and you need to make sure that they're pointing in the right direction and flowing in the direction that they are on the actual image of your pet. But shading fills in the blanks, so if you shade around where the hair is, it picks up that impression that there's hair there, and that works really well. That's another thing about the shading I like. And I talked about in the details how when you're focusing on one piece at a time, so I like, for example, start on this toe up here, you will start to see in small sections of detail. Well, the same thing happens when you're shading as well. You just be focusing on little sections, and you'll start to see it as like maps and mountains and hills and rivers. And that's really what I recommend you do. Don't just look at the whole image as a big image, and because it's overwhelming. What you want to do is take sections and work on each tiny section at a time, and really look at your reference image and copy as much as you can the details, because the more accurate you are to the image you're taking it from, the more it's going to look like the right image. And then another thing that was commented about by someone, I'm just going to find another picture here to illustrate my meaning. Just grab the last one I did here before that. Hang on, I'll use this one actually, because this one's a bit closer. This image here of Professor Snape from Harry Potter. Sorry, he's not exactly in the centre, but it doesn't matter. The nose. I've had people say to me, I can't draw a nose. I can do everything else, but I get really stuck drawing the nose. Well, your problem is you're drawing a nose, and you don't need to draw a nose. The nose is pretty much shading. On this nose here with Snape, I think the only part I would have drawn here was the nostrils, because everything else is shading. So when you do your rendering, which I talked about in one of the earlier videos, you draw the outline of the face, so you're drawing where the eyes are and you're drawing where the lips are. You will mark in where the nose is going to be. No detail, just put a mark in, put some dots where your nostrils are going to be and where the edge of the nose line is, just so like a little mark here on this side of the nose and one here. And then, you know, just a couple of marks of where the top of the nose is. And then when you come to putting the details in, your only details you're really going to need to put in are where the nostrils are. Then you get to your shading, and you will be shading in the shadows on your photograph. So you look at your photograph, where are the dark shadows, and as you shade in those shadows, the nose will appear. It's a great feeling. I love it when I'm doing the noses. It's one of my favourite things. Like I said, shading is one of my favourite things. But when there's just nostrils and you start to shade in and suddenly this nose pops out, it's really great. So you need to learn to shade it and don't draw it. This is a shaded nose, like I said. The nostrils are really the only thing I drew there. So yeah, shading is really a big part of the detail, to be honest. Let me just pop this one back. And have fun with it. Don't be too scared of it. If you're just laying up the shading, if you make a mistake, it's really, really easy to take it off. Don't go on too dark with the pencil. Don't press on too much. Just keep putting those layers on to make darker shading. And then if you do make a mistake, it's much easier to take it off. I think that was really all there was to say on the shading. It's just something you've got to practice doing. But to me, it's just so much fun to do. And then I'll show you the other drawing I've done since then, and hopefully you'll be able to see that this one is darker than the baby feet one, and it's not going to go in there because I'm just going to have to, honestly, you wouldn't believe the little setup I've got going on here. Right, there you go. This is some hands, man's hand and a woman's hand here, and hopefully you can see it better because hopefully I have got a little bit darker with this. It's just the confidence. When you're nervous, it's really hard to put that shading on and go that shade darker, because even though I've said to you, if you layer it up, you can take it off easier. It's still kind of nerve-wracking when you've put in lots of detail and it's looking good and you think, no, I like the way this looks. It should be a bit darker though. It's still scary to make it darker. So the more confidence you get, the more, well, the easier it is to darken the picture up. So, you know, I think it's darker. I mean, compared to the, okay, now my cardboard's going away. Compared to the baby feet, I think I've managed to go a little bit darker this time around. So hopefully with each drawing I'll be able to darken it until it's really the shade that I really want it to be, that it really should be. But yeah, there's the latest two, and I have since, what time am I on? Okay, I'll have to wind this up soon. I have since doing these two, I have also started dabbling with colour. I took one of my older drawings, one I did of Legolas from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and I did a little tiny bit of colour to that one. I didn't want to colour the whole thing in because it was supposed to be just a drawing, but I added a little bit of colour to his face and his eyes using colour pencils, nice colour pencils, and I did a watercolour the other day with some flowers, using watercolour pencils. My cousin's also given me watercolour paint, she's given me acrylic paint, she's given me pastels, she's given me gouache. I've got so many things to try, and I just want to figure out what my colour medium is for when I want to use colour in my art. And so that's another thing I can maybe talk about, is just discovering what I'm going to use and show you what I've done in colour, and you can join me on my journey of, you know, discovering the perfect colour medium for me. And this is just another little thing here. This is a drawing I did of my grandma when she was a little girl. The photograph I took this from is over 100 years old. There's not much detail to get from the picture, so really all the detail in this is just shading. I just put in shading and hope that that would bring some detail out. So that's my grandma, Ada, my dad's mum. And that's it. I think I'm going to have to go because my video is running long. If you want to see more of my art, check out my Instagram, time2pause. The 2 is a number 2, time2pause, and you'll be able to find some of my drawings on there. Otherwise, take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye, guys.